All right, Craig's here. We're all here. Let's do this thing.
Craig, why is Jay down the hallway?
Am I?
No.
Okay,
No.
that's good.
I'm just teasing you. You know how we tease each other.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's called hazing, and it continues for life. So.
Yeah. I found a hazing chart on in a Dragon magazine. I'll bring it up later.
Okay, that sounds interesting, actually.
No, it's not. It's one of those. It's one of those charts. It's like, oh, here are the best horror names in Waterdeep. Like, I don't think this needs to be printed anymore.
Yeah, but it was already printed, so if you really want to use it, it already exists.
But you just need a list of names.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But yeah, we're the Grumpy Dungeon Masters. I'm Jay. I'm joined by my co-host Christopher, Christian, and Dan. Say hi, guys.
Hi, guys.
Are we really
Hello
co-hosts or joint hosts?
Is that like that movie where they were centipedes? Like all the people were
no,
You mean The Human Centipede, the finest horror movie ever?
Oh, no, it's not, because that is Anaconda.
Oh, man. I saw
Anaconda's a comedy. It's not.
You mean Eight-Legged Freaks? Yeah, I know you meant Eight-Legged Freaks.
I did not.
The best horror film?
The Thing.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean,
No. There's not even an argument. There's not a fucking debate. The Thing is the greatest fucking horror film of all time.
what's that one that's in theaters right now that everyone is just clamoring over?
Sinners?
Yeah.
It's really good.
That's supposed to be the contender for one of the best horror films of all time now.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
All right.
But yeah, the problem with The Thing though is that it's a remake, so it doesn't count.
I'm just gonna move on and pretend
It's a remake.
No,
it was made in the 50s in black and white, and it wasn't that great. So The Thing that you watch is a remake of that film, and then that one has a prequel. Spoilers?
No, we don't talk about that one either.
So because of all this junk,
Waples, stick to D&D.
The Thing is not allowed to be.
Hang on, we got it.
Horror film.
So since we're talking about horror, let's move on to our actual topic.
No.
There you go.
These subclasses are junk. Except for the ones that are cool.
That Ranger one was actually probably the best Ranger subclass.
Yeah, but it won't get printed.
Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, we'll nerf it out of existence.
We didn't think the Conjure Minor Elementals would get printed the way it was debuted in the UA, but it sure did.
That's true. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely have some other books that should have had some changes made that we're going to talk about later that made it to print. So.
All right. Well, let's get in these. I'll try to go through the Rogue fandom. It's mostly the same. It just got some quality of life upgrades, in that it's level 9 feature that gets little soul trinkets. It used to be when something died, you would get a trinket and you could do a couple of neat things with it. Now it's just whenever you finish a rest, you get a bunch of these weird trinkets, and you can do the things with them. So, huzzah!
I think I like my subclass for Artificer better, where like it would put shit in a bag and make trinkets out of the bag. I think it was better than that one worked. Also, buy my Christmas module and you can get a free subclass for the Artificer.
Oh my gosh. All right.
Sorry.
He's losing it.
Yeah, no, your trinkets are better. They do the same things. You can do a little extras. You can use your Whales of the Grave thing that allows you to do, some sneak attack necrotic damage to a secondary target, without expending a use. You can get advantage on a death save or a con save, or you can cast augury. Woohoo. You also get Voice of Death. You can speak with dead once a day at 9th level. Ghost Walk, the level 13 feature, is pretty much the same. You become ghost-like. You can fly, you can move through things, yada yada.
Yep.
17th level, the capstone feature, mostly unchanged. Though they did give you the fact that extra sneak attack damage you deal to a secondary target, which is half your sneak attack dice.
That's
you now
neat.
deal that to the first target as well.
Okay.
So you hit that first target really hard.
I really do want to play the new Rogue because I think I would enjoy it quite a lot with all the new sneak attack stuff. And so, like, even though what you just mentioned right there doesn't really feel like a lot, I think that's really probably quite potent.
I think it's actually great at high level that because you're going to deal some extra damage to that first target. It means you don't feel as much if you want to take away some of your sneak attack dice to use those rogue kind of features that can do extra things. So that kind of gives you a pretty nice way to not use all your sneak attack dice damage for damage. Use your cool little rogue battle mastery things, but still dish out damage with your one attack.
So let's talk rogue for just a second, because I'm playing in Ravenloft using the 2014 rules, and I'm playing a rogue, and we have a barbarian. We're 8th level. My attacks are usually, because I get one sneak attack a round, so I'm doing 25 to 30 damage per round when I attack as a rogue, which seems okay at 8th level. And then the barbarian attacks, and naturally he has fucking great weapon master in 2014, the 2014 edition. So he's doing, like if he's getting the 3 attacks around because he kills something, he's doing fucking 3 times as much damage as I am. So I really want to play Rogue in 2020 in the 5.5 2024 edition, where that bullshit of the plus 10 damage on every attack is fucking gone.
Yeah. I mean, Dan, you were right. I mean, there's definitely is an issue with a couple of the old feats and stuff like that. But
100%.
Yeah,
like if you have to play a certain type of character, be it melee or missile, and you have 2 certain feats that you must take in order to be effective in combat, you're doing it wrong. Like that is not written well. It's the same thing in 3rd edition in Pathfinder. Everybody who was playing a fighter or any fighter type had to have power attack, or you were not doing nearly enough damage to be effective.
It had what?
Power attack. It works exactly. It works the same way. You get extra damage by taking a minus to hit.
Yep. I thought he said power jack, and I was like, what?
No.
What?
Yeah, you get power jack, bro.
Is that a wrestling move?
You even lift, bro?
They were the same. Yeah. The same issue is you had some overtuned feats that were clearly the best, and whenever there is a best in category, it makes everything else not really feel like an actual option, right? Because if there's always a best one, who's taking the less good options?
Well, I mean, for me, power attack, and I don't want to go too crazy, but they did add some later that I would be like, okay, as a non-barbarian, barbarian is the one that made it really broken because you could just rage and you're always doing reckless attacks. So the downside of always having disadvantage didn't really apply, but there were a couple others like getting Crusher instead of Great Weapon Master was always better and so, in a lot of cases and stuff like that. And if you were like a defensive character, picking up the bullshit intercept ability that reduced damage by a D10 was very, very, very good. So like it wasn't always required, but like if you were a barbarian, you didn't have Great Weapon Master. Like what the fuck were you doing? Like, are you even playing D&D?
Yeah, it wasn't required unless you were not playing that barbarian, and then it was required. Or if there's so there were certain situations required. Anyways, we'll get back to the UA. Let's get going. We've expounded upon the flaws of D&D plenty. We can
talk about my favorite sorcerer type,
the Shadow Sorcerer, which is also a sorcerer I greatly loved. It was not the best designed one in Xanathars, but it had a lot of flavor, and that's kind of what made it cool. In this, I'll say they've enhanced the stuff that kind of felt clunky and weird, but they have kind of killed one of the kind of flavor features. So I'll get into this. 3rd level, you got Eyes of the Dark. Same feature, it works better now. You just get Dark Vision to 120 feet, and you get Blind Sight within 10 feet of you. Also, instead of having to spend sorcery points, you can see through any darkness you cast. So if you cast a spell that causes darkness, you can always see through it. It used to be that if you spent sorcery points to cast the darkness spell, you could see through that one spell that you spent sorcery points to cast through. But any other spell you cast that caused darkness, you still couldn't see through it.
Minor change, but it's
Minor
a good
change,
one.
but actually a nice effect is that, hey, you can go around creating darkness with any spell that you might find that creates darkness from official stuff, third-party sources, whatever. You just know, hey, if I create darkness myself, I can see through it.
Yep, you can pocket sand everybody else except yourself.
Hell
Yes. You get shadow spells, you get a good selection of spells. You get stuff you kind of expect for a darkness theme sorcerer. You get darkness, bane, inflict wounds. You get Hunger of Hadar from the Warlock list, which is cool. You get Summon Undead now, which is also cool. Phantasmal Killer. I don't really get the Contagion and Creation, but I guess they just couldn't think of anything else.
Probably.
6th level, where you used to get Hound of Ill Omen, you now get Spirits of Ill Omen, which essentially allows you to cast Summon Undead, which is a cool spell, without material components, and you can cast it once without expending a spell slot. And you can choose to modify it so that it doesn't require concentration. But the duration becomes a minute.
Yeah, that's actually pretty
It is
good,
cool.
though.
It is probably better, but you do lose a little bit of the flavor of summoning that kind of the black dog that stalks a specific target.
Yeah.
It was kind of clunky because the dog uses like a direwolf stats, but has a couple of weird modifications. So it required the DM to create a thing for a player to give them, and then you had to remind everyone what it did. So it works better and smoother. It's just there was a cool thing to kind of I have the black dog, and it only goes after that one target unerringly.
Mm-hmm.
But still cool. 14, you get Shadow Walk, which is basically the same. When you're in darkness or dim light, you can bonus action teleport to another space within darkness or dim light.
Yep, that's my favorite ability for that class.
Oh,
I
yeah.
loved it. Used it all the time.
Yeah.
I like someone play a Shadow Monk that abused the shit out of that.
Yeah, Shadow Monks to do it. It's kind of those kind of things are actually some of my favorite abilities. I do enjoy in both tabletop games and video games and stuff playing that kind of glass cannon that is high mobility and can do good damage but doesn't take a lot of hits. So that's the mobility is your key survival technique essentially. I find those to be more fun to play than slower, tanky type characters generally.
Yeah.
I
did until they made an entire fucking genre out of it, and that's what most games were for a while, and still are, technically.
I disagree.
I'm not playing Dark Souls, man. I don't care how good it is.
Oh,
I'm not going to dodge around all goddamn day to do a massive power attack.
That's not the kind of that's not the kind of game
boring as shit.
Because in that you're all, like the whole thing is playing the Now I'm talking. There's plenty of other kind of action RPGs and stuff that you can play where you have an option to be kind of a glass cannony, high mobility type characters. Path of Exile, Diablo, even stuff like that has that same sort of genre or role.
Yeah.
So
I know what you mean.
Yeah. Level 18 for Shadow Sorcerer, you get your Umbral form, you become all shadowy for a minute, you can move through things, you get resistance to all damage except Force and Radiant, and you get what used to be one of your 3rd level features back at 18th level, but powered up. You get Strength of the Grave. When you would drop to 0 and not die outright, you can make a Charisma save, and if you succeed, your hit points instead change to a number equal to 3 times your Sorcerer level.
Neat.
So that's the Shadow Sorcerer. I still like it. It's still probably my favorite Sorcerer subclass.
That Strength of the Grave seems a little overpowered, wouldn't you say?
At 18th level? Nah.
Even at 18th level, I don't see any limitation on it. Like as long as
you're
in Umbral form,
you have to be in your Umbral form.
That's a minute,
right? For a minute, which you can do once, unless you spend another 6 sorcery points at some other point to restore it.
Yeah. But I mean, you go into that boss fight, and he nukes you, and you die, and then you make your save, and you're cool. And then he nukes you, and you die, and you make your save, and you're cool. Like,
you do have to make a save, and it's 5 plus half the damage. So it is like if you're taking a significant amount of damage, that could still be a pretty tough save to make.
It could, but
if you take, I don't know, say 50 damage. That's still a DC 30 save.
Yeah, if you're taking 50 or something, sure, but most of the time you're not going to be taking that much, not unless you're standing in a dragon's breath or
At
something.
18th level,
Even at 18th level,
the stuff you're probably not getting nickel and dime like 2 or 3 hit points a piece down. You're
but you're
getting
talking.
hit hard.
It's generally going to be like 20 or 30 is going to be the majority of what you'd be taking.
Yeah, maybe, but it's also at the level that no one plays. So how
That's
much
true.
does that?
Yeah,
How much
that's also
does that
true.
matter?
Anyway, moving on.
This is the Hexblade, and this is the one that I and a lot of other people have issues with. This used to be probably the most popular Warlock subclass, hands down.
I never played it because it didn't just cast Eldritch Blast over and over and over and over and over.
Yeah, and that was kind of one of the nice things, is that it was the only Warlock that you didn't feel that you had to just be an Eldritch Blast cannon. Like, it was the only Warlock that used to be that gave you some other option to do of something that. And it kind of came from, I think it came from, there used to be a 3-5 and Pathfinder class that was called the Hexblade.
Yeah, I got a chance to play the 5e Hexblade to like about up to level 5, and I enjoyed the fuck out of it.
Yeah, it had a lot of flavor, but they kind of took...
It reminded me a lot of the Avenger from 4th edition.
It reminds me of the Magus from Pathfinder.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know what.
I mean, it's Elric, man. It's what it is.
Exactly. That's exactly what it's supposed to be.
That's the intent of it, and every edition has eventually come upon that. Like, people clamor for it, either the Blade Singer or they clamor for this. And this one, honestly, probably more popular than the Blade Singer still.
It was the, I think in 3.5 or Pathfinder, it was a Duskblade. There was a Duskblade class.
I think that was
essentially the...
Magus was definitely the version in Pathfinder.
Magus is definitely.
I played one to 15th level, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah, and 3.5 was the Duskblade, and this is kind of the same concept. You are a shadowy, somewhat sinister warrior spellcaster hybrid. But the thing is, in the new edition of D&D, is they have given every Pact of the Blade Warlock what used to be the Hexblade's thing. The Hexblade was the only Warlock that made not Eldritch Blasting all the time viable, because they got to choose a weapon, and they became proficient in that weapon, and they could use their Charisma modifier for the attack and damage with that weapon. So all of a sudden, becoming a melee Warlock using your Hexblade's thing and your Pact of the Blade became a viable option. Whereas before, no matter how cool it seemed to choose the Pact of the Blade, it just was never as good as Eldritch Blast.
That's true.
But since they gave that to all Warlocks, and now any Pact of the Blade Warlock can play a pretty viable kind of sword and spell caster, the Hexblade kind of lost some of its identity, and I don't think they gave it back here.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. You get some spells. I don't think the spells change that much. You get Hex, you get up some of the Smite spells, you get Shield, you get a lot of kind of what you would expect for a melee caster. You get Steel Wind Strike. There's a lot of good spells in here for playing that sort of sword and spell kind of character.
Mm-hmm.
Third level, here's where you get to your features, where they have replaced what used to be your stuff. Hexblade's Curse has gone from being its own special thing to being a way that you alter your Hex spell. You can now cast Hex without expending a spell slot, a number of times equal to your Charisma modifier. And when you cast Hex, a spectral weapon representing your patron orbits the cursed target.
Okay.
You get Hexblade's Maneuvers, and this part is kind of neat. This is the only, I think, the cool part here. The rest of the class falls down. But Hexblade's Maneuvers, once per turn, when you hit a target cursed by your Hex with an attack roll, you can cause one of these additional effects. You can get 3 options you can choose from. You can do Draining Slash. The target has to make a con save, or it can't make opportunity attacks, and its speed is halved. Until the start of your next turn. You get Harrowing Blade. The target makes a Wisdom save against your spell save. On a failed save, the next time it makes an attack roll against a creature other than you, it takes necrotic damage equal to your Charisma modifier. Then you get Stymieing Mark. The target has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes before the start of your next turn.
All these sound terrible.
No.
That last one seems fine.
That one's great.
Yeah,
You
Stymie
can
Mark's
automatically
actually good.
always give a target once a turn disadvantage on a save.
Yeah, the draining slash
Just all the time.
There's other classes and stuff that have something similar where it loses half or it gets half speed, etc. Can't make opportunity attacks. But if you're in melee with this thing, so it's not going to fucking move away from you in the first place. So the speed halving is pointless.
Yeah.
This would only being able to hit somebody and walk away from them is really good.
Sure, but you're a melee class and you're just going to want to walk back up to them and hit them. Like, there's not a whole lot of point in.
That's my whole. That's why I hate rogues thing, because it's boring. It's overcomplicated and boring.
Yeah.
So walk in, melee, walk out.
But Stymieing Mark seems good. The rest of them
I think the harrowing is kind of meh. If it doesn't attack you, it takes a small amount of necrotic damage.
Yeah, 3 or 4 damage. Big fucking whoopty.
Yeah. Draining Slash, I guess, is a situation. I don't mind it existing as an option. It's a situational thing, and there might be the occasional time where you're like, I am low on hit points, and if he hits me, I'm going to go down. So maybe that's the time I'm going to use that and get out of there. And maybe, with his half speed, he won't be able to get to hit me or anyone else. So situationally, okay, but Stymieing Mark, the fact that you got hex spells out the wazoo now, plenty of times. You can almost always have somebody hex. That means every time you hit them, you can give them disadvantage. That can mean your buddies just constantly hitting them with cantrips. They just have disadvantage all the time against spells that anybody casts.
Yeah, that enemy is just gonna suffer from Tasha's hideous laughter every turn forever.
Yeah,
because of that.
Yeah, you've just given somebody a permanent half of silvery barbs.
Yeah.
I think it sounds very dull in a non-tanking class to be the debuffer, and that's your only job. Now, if he continues on and there's a lot of like really cool tanking abilities, and this turns out to be like the Ranger, where like it's a fucking beast of a tank as well.
Don't ever get it mistaken. You're not a tank. You are never supposed to be a tank.
That's kind of my point, is that being a debuffer in melee to me falls from a design space to the tank. And I understand that it can be on like the DPS, and I know I'm using MMO terms here to describe tabletop classes, but this is not the guy that I'm going to use to take hits, but it's the second target after the healer from a kill percentage order. Like you ignore the tank, kill the healer, kill the guy that's causing all the bad stuff to land, and then kill the people that are actually still standing. It just doesn't. Keep talking.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with having a debuffer be not the tank. Like, I don't think that the Warlock has traditionally been a debuffer as their primary role. Mm-hmm. So this one continuing that, especially something that has been revolved around curses, like the Hexblade has. That's kind of their whole bag, is that they curse and debuff.
Yeah, and I understand. Just keep going on it. Maybe my thoughts will change.
Yeah, level 6.
Oh no, because it only gets worse from here. I don't like the redo. I'll be very clear, as I don't like it. I think that Stymieing Mark is a cool feature, but I think the rest of it, like, this kind of falls apart. It's just the weird hex thing, and it doesn't really get the blade part. So level 6, you get Life Stealer. You get Hungering Hex. Whenever the target cursed by your hex drops to 0, you regain hit points equal to a D8 plus your charisma modifier. Okay, not bad.
All right.
It will fall down at the higher levels, but at low level, it's not too bad. But you also get Inevitable Blade once per turn. If you make an attack roll against a target cursed by your hex and miss, you can deal necrotic damage equal to your charisma modifier. So not bad as a in general, just kind of a.
You just get it, so that's
you just
fine.
get to do some. Yeah, you just get it. You can basically, as long as you're attacking with your weapon and attacking the guy that you cursed, you can always damage him a little bit.
Yeah, Might
I
not
don't
be
mind that.
much, but it's free. It doesn't cost you anything. So
Level 10, you get Armor of Hexes. You always used to get Armor of Hexes, but here's the cool. This is the thing. At level 6, the old Hexblade used to have something way cooler, which is when you killed a target that you had cursed, you got to raise it up as a specter.
oh, that's way cooler.
It's cooler, but I didn't like it from a Hexblade standpoint, flavor wise.
I think it makes perfect sense. You
Yeah.
have cursed a thing, and then now you force it to serve you for a limited amount of time until you release the curse on it.
It's a voodoo shaman ability. That's not a.
It's a warlock
You
thing.
just
It's
are.
absolutely
You've played
a
too much
warlock
WoW.
thing.
Yeah.
I don't play too much. Wow, what are you talking about, Zug Zug?
Yeah, that's absolutely a warlock thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
Also,
Warlocks
Dan,
summon demons in WoW. They don't kill you and raise your spirits. That's a priest.
yeah, Dan, make sure you talk up louder.
So yeah,
You're just
that's
gonna yell
what.
at me.
Yeah,
Life
Wayland's
Stealer.
fucking loud.
Yeah, you can turn him down in Discord, but I can't really adjust too much once the thing is finished. So, Armor of Hexes, level 10.
Level 10, Armor of Hexes. You always got Armor of Hexes, but now it's changed. When you take damage from the cursed target of your hex, you can take a reaction to reduce the damage taken by amount equal to 2d8 plus your charisma modifier.
What did
And you
it
can use
used to
that
do?
a number of times per day equal to your charisma modifier. It used to be is when you had somebody curse with your Hexblade's curse or another curse ability like Hex. When they attacked you and damaged you, you could roll a d6, and you had a 50-50 shot of it not doing damage to you at all, or it just resolving as normal.
That was too powerful, I think. If you have a 50-50 chance of that guy just not hurting you, that's a little too potent. I think the numbers for this are probably right, but I don't like the feature.
I don't think it was bad. It was because it wasn't reliable, and it was only on the one target you had cursed, so everybody else could just beat the crap out of you as normal. It was just that one guy you could maybe reduce some damage from, or maybe not, or do nothing.
It's also a 50-50 chance that dragon doesn't hit you for 30 damage, or the giant doesn't hit you for 40.
It was only with attacks too, so it didn't work against anything that was area effects or required a save or any of that stuff. Trust me, when I played this in a buddy's game for a while, I definitely went through multiple combats where it never went off. Just every time, it just did nothing.
Well, at least in this case, it's a guaranteed you're going to reduce something.
Right, but I just don't know how much 2d8 plus your charisma modifier matters at level 10.
At level 10, that's still substantial. But as you get at level 18, that's nothing.
Yeah, that's 13 damage, like a hit. But you said as a reaction, though, right?
It takes your reaction, so you can do it as your reaction. You can reduce it a little bit.
I mean, like the rogues got the reaction half damage, which can be a lot or a little.
Yeah.
If that wasn't a reaction, I would say it'd be really good. If it was like a once per turn
I
thing.
think it would be better if it was not a reaction, but you still had limited uses of it. I think that would be fine. You could just say, okay, I just choose to reduce that a little bit, because otherwise, this is definitely a worse uncanny dodge.
Yeah, I think that's what I'm. Like I said, the numbers I think are fine, but using your reaction just sort of makes this not great.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Masterful Hex.
Masterful Hex at level 14. The patron's accursed might flows even more strongly through you, and you get accursed critical, which you used to get at level 1.
Mm-hmm.
It's any attack roll you make against the target cursed by your hex, so it's only against this target. It's now a crit on a 19 or 20.
Yeah, cool. This guy sucks.
Infectious Hex. When you use one of your Hexblade maneuvers, you can target one additional creature within 30 feet of the cursed target. The additional target takes 1d6 necrotic damage. So at 14th level, you could make a second creature make a save of some sort and take a very small amount of necrotic damage. And finally, at 14th level, taking damage can't break your concentration on Hex.
I mean, they should get that a lot sooner. Level 6
Yeah,
or something.
It used to always be part of it. Hexblade's Curse. It was just a thing you could do that wasn't a spell, so there was no concentration. You just Hexblade Curse somebody.
Yeah, for level 14, like I like all of those abilities, but they're just not. It's not good at level 14. Like that's
no, considering two of them you used to get at level 1.
Yeah, and the Infectious Hex. I don't mind the Infectious Hex. It's a D6 damage, whatever. It's free stuff, But yeah, this isn't good.
And I think a lot of it too is just like you could have just said, "Hey, this warlock gets the weapon masteries traits and gets all these other cool benefits from the champion fighter. A little bit of blade master, a little bit of champion fighter, a little bit of rogue." Mix it all together and come out with something much better than this.
Yeah. Hopefully they go back to the drawing board with this one.
I hope so, because most of this was just uninspired and seems a lot less fun than the 2014 version.
Yeah, well, we're seeing a lot of that.
So
a lot of uninspired.
Yeah, and last but not least, because we already went over the Hexblade, is the Undead Patron Warlock, which came from Van Richten's guide. It was pretty decent in Van Richten's, and remains pretty decent here. It hasn't changed a whole lot. Essentially, they really just made it so that the whole thing revolves around your form of dread. Basically, as an action, bonus action, you assume this quasi undead form that is a mirror of whatever your undead patron is. You get some temporary hit points. You can't be frightened, and when you do attacks, you can choose it to do necrotic damage, and you can frighten creatures.
Yep, I remember this one.
So they've improved it in saying that now you can your necrotic damage can ignore resistance, which is nice to make it actually worthwhile. You do get a cool kind of necrotic husk, where you get resistance to necrotic damage. You're immune when you use Form of Dread. That's cool. And then the neat thing was always this kind of like corpse explosion thing, is whenever you die, you can just choose instead not to die, you just explode. You deal necrotic damage to everything around you, and then you show up somewhere else, like within 30 feet, and then you have a few hit points and you get a level of exhaustion.
Yeah, I hate this. Specifically because it says each creature of your choice in a 30-foot emanation. I'm sorry, I've played enough games where corpse explosion's a thing, and it murders everybody, including your friends.
Yeah. Yeah,
well, I Divinity, and I took that feat where I exploded when I died, and our strat became just kill me, so I explode and do my hit points and damage.
Yeah, but we had to make sure we weren't standing near you when we did that.
Yeah. No, it didn't hurt you guys.
All my deaths say otherwise.
I wouldn't mind it hurting people. I guess I can kind of see, because it is saving you from death, but a lot of other subclasses seem to have save you from death features now.
Yeah.
So the level of exhaustion you take on it seems a bit punishing. But I guess you're also dealing a bunch of damage to things around you in addition to just being saved from death. Not really, because
you need the 10 stacks of exhaustion for it to matter.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, that's true. They do. Well, I thought you still died at 6.
No, you die at 10.
Either way, you can't use it again until you get a short or a long rest. So.
Yeah. They want people panning out exhaustion more. So.
Which I don't mind that.
they made it so it's at that stacking -1 until you reach 10, and then you die.
And then
And then lastly, at level 14, you get Superior Dread. This just improves your form of dread that you got at 3rd level. So now you can fly. When you use a Warlock spell from Conjuration or Necromancy, you can cast it without verbal, somatic, or material components, as long as the material components aren't consumed by the spell or have a specific cost.
Okay,
And
I'm glad they wrote that in.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. And then you get Vitality Siphon is once per turn when you deal necrotic damage, you regain hit points equal to your Charisma modifier.
Fine.
Yeah, it's mostly the same, but just got a few kind of quality of life improvements.
All right. Well,
Isn't there a undead patron for the paladin too, or like the former dread for the paladin as well?
maybe probably in one of the subclasses.
Okay.
Like there's so many things to keep up with at this point. I don't know.
Yeah, now you got to pay attention to 2014 and 2024.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
Well, that's it.
Anyway, Pulse, you still die at 6 levels of exhaustion. You don't get to 10.
It's at 6. Okay, I thought it was 10.
Yep.
Either way,
it's still the same. It's just, you make a D20 roll tested -2 times your levels of exhaustion. So at level 5, you're -10 to damn near everything. So you're pretty fucked.
Okay.
all right. Well, that's the Unearthed Arcana horror subclasses. Some of them need changes. Some of them are fine as they are. We'll see what happens whenever they release them in a book somewhere in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's see. What other topics? So I wanted to talk about something I've received from Kickstarter recently that me and Chris backed 4 years ago.
Yeah, back in November 2021.
Yeah, back in ye olden days, the Skyraiders of Abarax. My God, I actually got it. The physical copies finally came in, and the book.
So you already had the PDF.
I got the PDF. Shit, 6 months ago, a year ago, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But because I am who I am, I kind of skim through the PDF. I don't really read the PDF. If I know I'm going to get a physical copy, I'm going to wait for the physical copy to really dive through it.
Sure.
So there's good and bad about it. The good, the books are gorgeous. There's 2 books. They're about 300 pages. The art is fantastic.
Good to hear.
Yeah, like it's a beautiful, beautiful book. Some of the art in there is definitely not computer art, not CG. Some of it's physical, some of it is CG, but even the CG art is really, really good. So it's a nice book to look at. Then we come to the maps, and I had seen on the PDFs that the maps were done in Incarnate. Yeah, everybody should be familiar with Incarnate, but it's an online D&D map program. I've used it several times. I know other people here have. If I'm going to back a Kickstarter, I really would expect them to get actual maps made and not have somebody do it in Incarnate or like what are the other ones? Dungeon Draft or something like that.
Yeah, hire an actual artist.
That's what I was expecting. And I was thinking, okay, the PDFs, I was like, okay, I would expect it, before the physical product comes out, they'll put the real maps in. But no, apparently that was not the case. So I was really, really kind of disappointed in that. Then there is the issue of, as I said, it's 2 books, each one about 300 pages. About 300 pages total are spent reprinting the classes, the equipment, etc., from the normal player's handbook, the 2014 version, and then the monster manual.
What?
Yeah.
That's just filler.
Yes. So effectively, I got one book.
So
God.
my quick thought would be that I guess their intention with that is, hey, you can play this game solely out of these 2 books without having to reference anything else.
Except they didn't. Except they didn't. They didn't put magic items in there.
Oh, well, never mind then.
Yeah.
All right.
I would have agreed with you on that, but like, there's no magic item section. The stuff that is in there that's new, a lot of it's really cool. It's a setting, and there's a shit ton of lore on the setting, and I mean a lot of it. All of the cities, all of the towns, lots of NPCs. So there's a lot of really good stuff in there. There's about 50 pages or so on how to run airship combat, which is something that D&D has seriously been lacking for years now, at least 5e.
But what about Spelljammer?
Yeah, what about Spelljammer? Well, this would have been great for Spelljammer. Because you got it's pretty in depth. I haven't gone through the entirety of it, and if I ever decide to actually run ship stuff, I probably will. But that was nice. The lore was nice. There's a couple of other things I really didn't like about it. One thing specifically. So I got the alpha version of the PDFs way back when because they wanted feedback. So I sent in feedback. And let's just say they didn't utilize any of that feedback. I'm going to pull up one.
It's like they almost worked for WotC. Wow.
I know, right? My assumption is they were, fucking just overwhelmed with this.
How big was this Kickstarter?
Raised $517,000.
All right, for that kind of money, you can hire people to go through all that feedback, which I'm sure there was a lot of it, and you can't just rely on one person. But yeah, so far I'm pretty disappointed in what you're telling me.
That's kind of what I'm saying. Like, this is $500,000 for 2 books, a large part of which are just reprints of an existing book.
And maps of the equivalent of something that Chris or I would whip out in an Incarnate in an afternoon. Unimpressed.
I mean, there's the DM screen that it came with is fantastic. It's very well done. There's some large print physical maps that I got that are really nice also. They're world maps. I don't know if they were done in Incarnate. I don't think so.
I mean, Incarnate can make some nice looking stuff, but you've got to... If you're going to make a unique campaign setting and have a Kickstarter that is your own stuff, I mean, you've got to hire an artist to make your own, at least like your own, blocks and templates for Incarnate if you're actually going to use that. But I mean, hell, there's a lot of really great map makers out there that do not use Incarnate, or if they do, they'll use their own programs and Photoshop it to beautify it in order to add shadows and shade and lighting effects and stuff like that. I follow a half dozen. I used to make my own maps, but I follow a half dozen Patreon map makers that just create beautiful stuff that I don't have the time to make. So unless I'm specifically creating a particular room or set of encounters or dungeon or something like that, I usually just adapt whatever somebody else made and make my encounter work for it.
Yeah, I know. I did the same thing. I took a lot of people's maps when I was using them on just things I found on Incarnate, made some adjustments to them and used them because why not? Yeah,
a lot of time I'll drag and drop little items and tokens and populate it with things and stuff like that because a lot of them are kind of blank. But otherwise, it's disappointing. That's disappointing for such a big time sort of Kickstarter, because $5 million is pretty big for a D&D Kickstarter.
Yeah,
I mean, I know lately we've been seeing Goodman Games and Arcane Library, crack over almost $1 million or even $2 million, but that's not often. That's not something that always happens.
Well, more so, this is it has Tracy and Laura Hickman's name tied to this. This is their baby. I assume that this is the campaign that they have been running for their friends, etc. For quite a while now, but it just didn't come off great.
That's
So
unfortunate.
Well,
Yeah.
Actually, real quick aside about maps and whatnot. Did you see that? I think it's Zepeku, a known battle map artist, has all his maps now on D&D Beyond for their mapping tool. So, like,
Cool.
D&D Beyond has like a 2D VTT that you can use, and part of that tool is just basic maps from the handbooks. But they
Right.
basically paid to license all his stuff, so you can spend, I think, like $6 and get his maps in the D&D Beyond tool. You can also just buy the maps by themselves for, I think, like...
I'm glad Watsy's getting on board with 2020 Roll20, so that's nice.
Yeah.
Because you could have downloaded his maps for 5 years now there, so...
Yeah.
Way to
But, yeah,
blow
I mean,
and steal their thunder.
I mean, you know what? I'm always about stealing Watsy's thunder because they're always a little bit behind, or maybe 5 years behind, and everything. See their most recent flop of a 3D VTT. I mean,
Yeah. Okay, so they used most of the standard races that you would find, or ancestries, whatever they call them these days. As well as they have a few of their own. They added ogres as playable races. They added one called the Barong, Barong. They're just cat people.
Wrong.
so Tabaxi?
They're just Tabaxi. They have their own history, obviously, but they're just Tabaxi.
Sure.
Uh,
Okay.
I mean, sure, Tabaxi aren't in the SRD, so I guess you
Yeah,
you gotta
well-
make
you
up
gotta
your own
make
cap.
you gotta make your own cat people
Well,
because they
hold
run
on,
like the
hold
wind.
on. So they don't get the standard Tabaxi traits, though.
Oh, they can't because they can't just copy it.
Well, yeah, but they give them their own, and there's definitely some problems with these. I'm gonna read two of them, and this was something I
no.
gave them feedback on. All right, so stealth. Barong can move silently at will. While their size can often make each such movement difficult to conceal, the chance that they can be detected while moving silently is 10% of the normal chance. That's actually what it says.
What
10%.
first edition bullshit is this?
I remember when thief skills were percentages. So
So
man,
do I, yeah.
I don't want a
so this is-
D100 anymore when I'm playing D&D.
yeah, no, but this is weird. So normally, yeah, you just make a perception check versus stealth.
Well, it gets even more. It gets just confusing. So what is
But- So now they have a 10% chance of that. Is it
Of
just
the
they have a
normal
10% chance of that check being successful?
I don't know.
Or
They can be
They have a
detected while
10%
moving.
chance to even get to make the check?
The chance that they can be detected while moving silently is 10% of the normal chance. That's what it says. Like, that doesn't actually compute in 5e at all.
No.
Yeah,
Here's
what my guess is that they are running this game just like you said. That this is their house game, and they're still running it in second edition. And
Yeah,
whoever was converting this thing to 5th edition for them, because I'm guessing they didn't do it themselves, probably just missed that. And again,
but
people like you gave feedback, and it probably just wasn't ever read because they ran out of time.
That's one of the very first things in the book. That's on page 41. Like, that's the first page of races of ancestries.
And, I will say, I don't know what kind of staff they have, and I don't have the table of contents in front of me, and all the writing credits and everything. But my guess is that you've got one. If you only have like one or two editors for a small project like this, that kind of stuff can get missed. Absolutely.
Oh,
I mean,
sure.
I've edited books before, and there's stuff that somebody like you reading through it looks through it is like, huh, what? But somebody who's been editing it for a year and a half, like, just glosses over it. Yeah, those Tabaxi clones are done. Let's keep on moving.
I can guarantee you, as a technical writer too, like, you can only do so much, and you can never catch everything in your draft of a work. You need to have someone else.
Which is why I will say, even WotC, I will give a little bit of leeway on some of their typos and stuff like that. Like, you know what?
Right, but this isn't just Right, but this is a core feature of one of the new things they added.
That people have actually given feedback on. I get it. It's just
all right. What's the next one?
Yeah, so the Barong's next ability.
Oh no.
I'm not even getting off of this one. Like, this is the only one I even need to go over. It's called Fixed Gaze. A Barong may attempt to fix an opponent with its gaze. To do so, there must be line of sight between the Barong and the subject, and the target must be looking in their general direction. There is a 70% chance that the subject will be fixed by the gaze, plus or minus 5% for every difference in level between the Barong and the target. Subtract.
What the fuck does fix mean?
Hold on. I'm not even done. Subtract if the target is of higher level, add if the target is of lower level. A target creature fixed by the Barong gaze may not act for the remainder of the round until they have been physically hit or shaken. The Barong may perform no other action other than fixing his gaze on the other creature and moving slowly toward them. The Barong remains aware of its surroundings, meaning it can break contact at will. This is by far the most broke-ass ability. It does the effect of a spell with a 70% chance of success, and you never run out of it.
Also, I want to point out that in D&D, monsters and stuff don't technically have levels.
Yeah, there's that too. Does it work on everything? Does it work? Can you use spell resist? Legendary resist on this? Like nothing.
Because it doesn't give you a condition. Like you're not paralyzed. It just says you're fixed and you can't move. So theoretically, this works on anything.
Yes. What's up, Orcus? Fixed gaze. What's up?
Yeah. So you do. Okay. Everyone plays a team of Barong.
Oh yeah, you're definitely playing a team of Barong at this point.
And every one of them on the first round just starts looking at everything.
Fucking wham! Yeah, absolutely.
Whatever stops moving then gets hit. Yeah, that's. I'm not. Yeah, and that's the only one I'm going. That's the only one I'm going to go over. But let's just say there are multiple things.
I think Dan's 100% right. This is a second edition game that's been converted.
Yes, I think so.
Did not manage to get fully converted. It's just
Yeah, I think you're probably dead on with that.
You know what makes me wonder? Like, why didn't they just release it? I mean, like OSR is very popular. Why didn't they just do it? I don't get it.
Yeah, if they'd released it and said, "Hey, this is based off of second edition," it's based off of BECME or Second Ed or some shit like that.
Like, those are the people that probably would have like thrown more money at it too, because the people who still play OSR games, which are quite a few from what we saw at GaryCon, like
it was half the con.
People would have fucking thrown a shitload more money at them because those writers are known for second edition.
Yeah.
I mean, I threw money at it specifically because of who was behind it. The Hickmans.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's the power of their name behind it. So I don't know. Okay, well, thanks for telling me about it. Let me actually tell me this. How is the ship combat?
I have not had a chance to go through it.
All right, let's revisit that next time. I want to hear about that because I have never seen other than I guess. Even Limithron's Pirate Borg version of 5e ship combat, it's rough. It's hard to deal with because you have to deal with all the skills and everything of D&D. So I want to hear how they handle it.
Okay. I mean, like I said, it's about
air combat or ship or sea combat. It's the same fucking thing.
Yeah.
You're still having vehicles involved in combat.
Yeah, it's about 50 pages, so it'll take me a little bit to digest it. But yeah, I'll go through it.
That's not a good sign to start, Jay.
That is not a good sign.
Not a good start. Shit. Okay.
Waples, did you have anything you wanted to say about it before we move on?
Yeah, my copy arrived damaged, and
I saw. Yeah.
They have yet to respond back to my request on fixing the book. And
I mean, it's only been a few days, so
I had fully intended to use ship combat in my new homebrew for part of the World-Born Dead stuff that I started running this weekend. And I think that I'm going to just heavily pass on using any of their material at this time. I spent $80 on this, and I think it's the worst Kickstarter that I've backed to date.
Probably the second worst one I backed. One of them never actually came to me. So,
Ethereal Expanse from Ghostfire Gaming.
yes.
They're better. Has some rules for ship combat in it. If you want to look at that, Chris, it's much shorter.
We know about
which
it.
I do own, and we talked to James Haig about that. I do have that. That was kind of like the backup to this one, because I looked at this one, and the setting to me reminded me of the original Final Fantasy, like the first couple, where like you're flying around in an airship and you gotta get the crystals and shit like that. And I'm disappointed. You know, you guys have talked up Dragonlance so much. I kind of expected more from this, and
you know what? I now that you mentioned that, so there was a whole thing between WotC and the Hickmans falling out whenever they're writing about Dragonlance, which I guess was happening. They're writing for it whenever they were technically writing for this game.
Yes, yeah, it was around.
Which might have also extended the fact that it took forever.
Ooh, he roboted.
Yes, he did. Dan, you there? I know we can't hear Dan.
Uh-oh.
He died.
Roboted out.
Hello, can you hear me?
Up, you're back. We heard you. Say something.
Hello?
All right, there you go. Welcome back.
Yeah, I don't know. I unplugged. Actually, I unplugged my thing when I was turning around trying to put away a magazine. Yeah. So this has got to be somewhat involved, where basically they spread themselves too thin. They were, fantastic writers back in the 80s, but suddenly whenever they had to work on basically a Kickstarter that they were seemingly successful at, converting, I'm guessing, their homebrew system. Again, speculation. I haven't really researched this at all, but this is what it seems to read like to me.
Yeah.
And then they also got hired by WotC to basically oversee like the creation of this Dragonlance supplement for 5e. Using a lot of their old material.
Well, now so the WotC thing, they were just writing 3 novels.
Oh, okay.
They didn't have anything to do with the 5e Dragonlance setting or any of that. They just wrote novels.
Okay. All right, that's different. But yeah, I'd like to see some interviews with them or something, because I want to. Like, I've had a lot of respect for them for many, many years, and this is kind of disappointing result from their Kickstarter.
This setting actually reminds me of their, I don't know if you guys have read, but Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman wrote a cycle called the Deathgate Cycle, a series of 7 books.
Mm-hmm. I'm familiar with it. I've never read it.
This actually reminds me of one of the worlds from that series of novels, because it was a aerial world full of floating islands where water was rare and they used magic for ships. And
yeah,
could be.
That checks out.
All right, so moving on, I got a couple other topics. I'll try to kind of combine them. So last week, when we were getting ready to check out of here, I talked about Against the Darkmaster, which Dan, you had linked this to me, and I started going through it. And when I talked about it last week, I had gone through a lot of the character creation stuff, and I absolutely love the character building portion of this game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very well done. It's clean. There's a lot of depth to it, so you can build really, really cool characters.
Yeah.
And then I started diving more into the rules, and the combat isn't that bad. It is percentile, but it's kind of a weird percentile. Like, I think it's, that's 1 to 100. But right. This is more, I guess, I never played Rollmaster, but more in line with Rollmaster, where it's 1 to 100 plus some other numbers on top of that, and then you have to look at a chart to see what happens.
That is definitely very Rollmaster. So you're thinking when you're thinking percentile, you're probably thinking like
Call of Cthulhu,
Palladium, or Rifts, and it's
right. Yeah.
hey, I have a 75% chance of succeeding on this skill I have. I got to roll 75 or less, or 74% or less. Yeah, Rollmaster was a little different. It was an open-ended percentile dice, wherein if you rolled 96 to 100, you rolled again and added whatever you rolled. Unless, of course, you open it again and keep on open-ending and get a ridiculous number, which rarely happened, but it was interesting when it did. And you could also low end, however, which is basically fumbling, is OT 1 to OT 4. And then if you did that, you would subtract what you rolled next. So if you rolled that OT 1 and then rolled a 50, you have a minus 49. And then plus again whatever your bonus is.
So it sounds just like Rollmaster. That's exactly how this operates.
You have some things that can add or subtract from your percentile. Then you have to figure out where you're hit. Then you have to look at what kind of weapon am I using. And...
Right.
Now I hear all of that, and I'm like, okay, I personally am down with this because I don't mind that kind of stuff. But one thing I'm beginning to, it occurs to me, I will play pretty much any system, no matter how complex, and be fucking happy doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But my players never will.
That's fair.
And that
I've discovered that too. Yeah.
It kind of kills a lot of game systems I would love to play, including this one, because then I got into the movement and the initiatives of this system, and I'm like, oh no, there's no way in hell I'd ever get my players on board. The movement in this one is ridiculous. I started looking at Hackmaster, which I really love, and I want to run it. But the initiative system and the movement system are tied together, and it is it's wonky because it just counts up initiative 1, initiative 2, initiative 3, and then whatever initiative on. Oh, well, if you're 30 feet out on initiative, and you're on initiative 3, you can be like, okay, I start to move at a jog. And when you hear I start to move at a jog on initiative 3, well, okay, on initiative 6 or whatever, you then pick up to a run. On initiative 9, you finally get there. Do you slow down in the process? If not, then you might barrel over people. It goes super, super in depth on the movement tied into the initiative system. And for me, I love that. But there's no chance in hell of me getting my players on board.
Yeah, I hear you.
I did not love that. I hated it in Rollmaster when we played that because it was obnoxious. It took forever to figure out when people... there was never like a clean, nobody always knew everything. There was like a couple people that would know something, but even those people would get confused. Even the experts are people running the game. Chris, your friend... would get confused about, when did this happen? Oh, never mind. This guy shouldn't be able to do this yet. He only moved this time. And it always devolved into figuring out the exact timings of when things happened, or if two people were moving at the same time, who got to the target and when the spell went off. It was always an unending debate.
Yeah. So in Hackmaster, the way there's a section that does a comic book of Knights of the Dinner Table walking you through combat, which is fantastic. That's really what I was reading to sort of figure out the rules of it. And it walks you step by step on how the combat works. But if you're familiar with Knights of the Dinner Table, you got the Game Master BA running his game for his 4 players. And even in that comic strip, some of the players are forgetting their actions or forgetting they have this thing equipped. So it takes.
Let me just go ahead and tell you though that it doesn't take a complicated system like Hackmaster or Rollmaster for the players to forget their actions or their characters' abilities or the items that they're carrying or the multitude of potions they have stored away for just such an occasion. I will say definitely that Rollmaster and Against the Dark Lord, they are complicated systems, but one thing that I do like about both those systems, from what I've read about the one we just discovered, but also Rollmaster, is that you can simplify it down. If you want to use D&D movement in it, you can. And in fact, actually, the baseline character law movement is very similar to just baseline D&D movement. And in fact, it actually moves the same number of squares, except they use feet instead of hexes or squares, or whatever the hell they used in first edition. What was it? You said, Jay, it was like yards or
it's meters, I think.
yeah. It was using a meter, a yard, and a foot at the same time in the same spell description. But it was one of those things where the options that you ended up playing with typically ended up being whatever options the rest of your game decided that they liked. So Christian, you're talking about the game that Chris ran for us many years ago when we were in college, and that game was filled with a bunch of different options from different Rollmaster companions because you could play the game with just the baseline, but essentially you would have action points, and action points was a much more technical version of how and when people would act, as opposed to just I roll initiative, I go and do these things. But it's also kind of similar and draws upon how AD&D ended up doing it, where a spell cost would take 7 action points to cast, or a two-handed sword took 7 to cast, and it was one of those things. I think it came in an Unearthed Arcana or something like that. But I know I've played a number of games
weapon speed.
Weapon speed. Well, weapon speed and casting speed. It was the same sort of thing, except basically you multiply by 10.
You had really segments.
Yeah. So, for example, we were talking a couple of weeks ago about Var's Black Tentacles in earlier editions, where it would take you a full round to cast. So in Rollmaster, that would take you 75 action points, which is effectively a full round for most characters. So it's the same thing, and yeah, I think I'm definitely beyond wanting to be that crunchy, and I know my players definitely are, and I certainly know that I could never run a game like that online.
Oh no, I would never try that online. Yeah,
unless the shit's automated, at which point why am I even doing it? Yeah, I'm not running online. So the way we handled it back when we were in college and played the games like this was that we would have different people that were in charge of different things that they're really good at. So my buddy Matt, who's just a math genius, would be the action point guy. He would know exactly when everyone would go and be able to calculate in his head without pulling out a calculator how far you'd be able to move. He's like, yeah, you can get to that guy, no problem. You'll have 5 action points left over after you get there, so you can swing your sword. And he would just calculate it. He would just know. And then somebody would know exactly where. Everybody would have basically tabs where all of the different weapons charts are for guys swinging the longsword, the greatsword, and the quarterstaff. And then you'd have another guy running the spell law tables, which would be for the spellcasters casting firebolt, shockbolt, blah blah, or fireball, etc., and so on. And if you had those people, and again, you're playing in person because it's the '90s. There's no remote gaming. People are always paying attention. It actually helps people pay attention because you have to be listening to what's going on in the combat.
There's no cell phones.
Yeah, there's no cell phones. Nobody's fucking around on their computer. Nobody's reading an article on the Times. People are looking through and waiting until, Christian rolled a 66 on a C crush critical. Yeah, you just fucking caved that guy's head in. He's fucking dead. And everyone's just celebrating because this just fucking happened. So it was a different time. I mean, I definitely sometimes miss it, but I also sometimes don't, because man, those were some long sessions of gaming, but get a lot done in 2 or 3 sessions, as opposed to 12 sessions of playing 3 hours of D&D online.
Sure, that was when we could afford to spend 8 hours, playing.
I know. Yeah.
I'm the guy who can still afford 8 hours, but I can't get anybody else to do it.
Yeah,
so.
But it's also the different in the style of system. Those types of systems try to be simulationalist, right? They're trying to
they are
accurately map as much as they can to reality. They're not trying to be as abstract as other systems.
Mm-hmm.
As we've gotten older, a lot of us are moving towards the OSR, which is lower amount of rules just to play the damn game as quickly as possible.
Yeah, because there's one of the things I found is this applies to Rollmaster, some other systems, especially systems that espouse themselves to be deadly and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
Those are great, and I enjoy that, except when a character takes 2 hours to make, because there's nothing fun about getting into a game to play with your friends, dying quickly because it's a deadly system, and then not getting to play the game for the next 2 hours because you have to make a new character. That is not fun.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I'm planning on running the X-Crawl Classics game here sometime in the nearish future, and all of my players are going to have 3 characters made up. Now that and they understand this. It is a deadly system. That being said, at the same time, if they didn't have characters, you can still make a character in 10 minutes in that game. It's not that difficult.
Right.
But yeah, if you're going to spend an hour making a character like fucking 3rd edition D&D or something, I don't know about that. So
yeah, I don't know.
Right.
I'm all about some Pyropork or Shadow Dark character creation.
Yeah, very quick, very simple. Get into the game quickly. I like those two. I like all sorts of games. I was going to talk about Index Card RPG, but I think I'm going to save that for next week. But I will briefly say for Game Masters, that's a wonderful book. And I'll dive into it either next week or Dan, you're going to be gone, right?
I'll be gone, but I have an Index Card RPG. You can feel free to talk without me on vacation next week.
Oh, yeah, we'll talk about you.
Oh! Speaking of which, I've been asked by my wife to ask you guys a question.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Ancient
Yes, you're
Gold
a pretty
Dragon.
girl.
Wow, me?
Yeah.
I'm not. Ancient Gold Dragon versus Baelor. Who wins?
That's
Probably. Well, okay. Which edition?
I'm assuming we're talking about 5th edition D&D.
5e 2014.
Baelor.
Okay. Chris?
Yeah.
I believe the Baelor does because they both can fly.
There's two primary reasons.
And let me add a little couple caveats to that. Neither of them have lair actions.
Right.
They're just meeting out on the field of battle and they're just fighting.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm guessing it's going to be the Baelor because the Gold Dragon has its fire breath. It doesn't have magical claws in 2014, so it's not going to be doing full damage to the Baelor. The Baelor does have, I believe, a magic whip, or it bypasses magic resistance. Nonetheless,
it also can do blasphemy every turn.
Yeah. So the dragon's definitely a big chunk of beefy hit points, but I think that it will eventually win. And you said Ancient Gold Dragon or Dolt?
Ancient.
Ancient? Yeah, I'm still giving it up for the Baelor.
Okay.
I don't like it, but I think I have to.
Chris?
Yeah, I think I would actually. Baelor's are immune to fire, and a lot of part of the Gold Dragon's big damage is going to be fire. That said, I haven't run an Ancient Gold Dragon in 5th Ed, so there's probably some ability of theirs I'm not thinking about. The Baelor does lightning damage with its sword.
Mm-hmm. But the Gold Dragon, I would say, is also immune to the fire aura and the death throes of a Baelor, which is kind of their thing. But yeah, okay.
Because the dragon only gets.
I'm asking because she has a certain situation.
Okay.
And I talk frequently about our weekly or a monthly or so Greyhawk game, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they have come, the party trying to find my character's lost soul has come to the cryptic finale of where that happens to be, and it is my soul is apparently bound to the heart of a gold dragon in the bottom of Castle Greyhawk, and that is an ancient gold dragon. And the reason why I'm asking about the Baelor as to why Baelor would win versus an ancient gold dragon is because my wife's character has a Baelor trapped in a cage that was put there by the Archmage Zagig, and she has the command word to release it.
I would say most likely the Baelor. On the other hand, there's the off chance, if you don't roll well, the Gold Dragon also has weakening breath in addition to fire breath. That can just give you disadvantage on all strength things.
Yeah.
So that would hurt. And the Baelors are not immune to fear, which means they can be frightened.
Oh, wow. Oh,
yeah,
fuck.
I think it still would put a big hurting. Like, nonetheless, it's going to put a hurting on the Gold Dragon.
Yeah.
So I think nonetheless, it's a good thing to use.
I do stand corrected on the blasphemy. I think that was 3rd edition.
Yeah. It has death throws, which is fire damage, so the gold dragon's immune. It has fire aura, which is fire damage, so the gold dragon's immune. So really what the Balor is doing is hitting with its lightning sword, because its whip is mostly fire damage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
3d8 and 2d6 plus 8 compared to 3 attacks. Higher AC for the dragon, a lot more hit points for the dragon. The teleport can actually get it out of reach of the dragon, because it can teleport 120. The dragon's best movement is 80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, I have no idea what Steve has this thing stat as. I just know it's a gargantuan sized gold dragon.
Yeah.
And she's trying to figure out what to do, because we're we ended the game today just before, or yesterday rather, just before we rolled initiative. So likely next session they will be fighting.
I definitely think that it's a good choice. Like I said, it can at least distract, if not.
Oh, I mean, I think she's going to do it regardless of what you guys say. She just wanted me to ask you guys, because
I think the Balor's got a good chance because, like I said, they're both immune to fire. So, but the fact that the Balor has resistance to that slashing, piercing, and bludgeoning from non-magical attacks, and there's nothing in the base Gold Dragon stat block, at least, that says that its attacks count as magical.
That alone is going to effectively give the Balor about as many hit points as the dragon.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. And it's not the Gold Dragon's not immune to lightning damage. So.
Yeah, the only thing there will be that if that Balor gets frightened and has disadvantage to hit that dragon a bunch, it's gonna be.
What's its plus the hit?
Because the here's the other thing: the Balor has multi-attack. It only makes 2 attacks, right? Only one of them is with the sword. The other one's with the whip. The sword will do more to the dragon because it'll have full effect. The whip is going to do a little bit of slashing damage, and all the fire damage is immune to.
Yeah, it's 2d6 damage. The whip's kind of eh.
Yeah, so it's not making a lot of attacks. If it gets frightened and those attacks become at disadvantage, it's gonna have a rough time.
Yeah, if it becomes frightened, it just has to get out of the range. Though it can teleport without error or whatever within 120 feet, so it can get it out of the range, end of the frightened, and go back. But yeah, it's the DC is probably too damn high for it to make, though.
It's a DC 24 on the fear, and it's got +9 to its wisdom save.
Okay, so, 15 to roll.
Yeah, so it's doable.
It's doable. It's gonna be hard. That teleporting is its action though, so that's a lot of spending what it could be doing. It's gonna be a good fight, I think. I think it's a good fight.
Yeah.
Yep. We'll report back whenever it happens. I think it's doing it in a month. So
round 1 fight.
I do have one last thing to add before we end. I did get a chance to start up my Grumpy DM weekly campaign game. So if you're not watching on Twitch, please join us on Saturday at 7:00 and see my party. And I shit you not, deal with a non-magical book for 45 minutes.
Oh, I think Dan can sympathize.
It's like it was a D&D game or something.
So I sent my party into the Blue Alley in Waterdeep, and they're level 10. Okay, this is like the one shot, and I expected them to clear this whole thing in that time. So they get to the Blue Alley where they have to sign their name and start going through the Blue Alley, and they were told that they have to activate the Blue Alley's hard mode so they can teleport somewhere special. Something I added.
Brief aside, what the hell is the Blue Alley? I don't know.
The Blue Alley is a alley in Waterdeep created by an unknown wizard to test the mettle of adventurers. It's a known thing, full of traps and deadly monsters, for like a party of like around level 5-ish or so. A lot of people go in, not a lot of people come out. But at the same time, there's a lot of treasures and gold and stuff to have in there. A lot of people think that it was just made by a wizard so he could just kill adventurers, kind of like a Skyraiders. Adventurers are going to show up here, try to raid my tomb, and die. So it's just
you have to deliberately choose to go into. It's not like you just stumble into it or something.
You have to sign your name in this book at the very front, and a wall of force then drops to let you in. And my party had a sign with a magical quill the name of the first Blackstaff, which they were given. And that activate the hard mode, which is pretty much the blue alley, but I just kind of upped the monster's CR throughout the whole dungeon and made the traps a little bit more deadlier for a level 10 party. And they get to this book and they start like, is this the right book? Is this the book we're supposed to sign? I don't know. It could be a different book. Let's look outside again. Okay, there's only this entrance and the other entrance. Okay, let's go back to here. Okay, should we sign it with a normal pen and see what happens?
Detect magic on it.
Yeah, I'm going to cast Detect Magic on it. Is it magical? Technically, it's not magical, but if it drops a wall of force, it has to have some abjuration to it.
All right, what type of magic does it radiate?
And there's a glyph of warded on it, so like if you take it away from the pillar, it explodes. So it's got to have that around.
Something's got to happen. You got to interact with that more. Yeah.
Yeah. So
I Waples, you're preaching to the choir. I had a very similar situation in my last session. So yeah, I hear you, man.
Yeah, we've all been there.
Magic book, and also a level 13 party defeated for an hour and a half by a 60-foot vertical shaft that they could, in many ways, traverse, but waited until finally somebody used a single ability that would be expended in order to make it happen.
Those resources, they're so important.
Dear God, I mean, I understand like holding back like potions and stuff, but man, like they spent a spell to get the rogue up there. They saw what it was, and they didn't, like put in pitons and have the very strong and incredibly athletic Goliath just climb up the shaft and then throw a rope down to everybody and pull them up. Nothing like that. No, it had to be an hour and a half later, finally, after fucking around with literally everything else in the room and going back to where they thought, like, where they came into the room. They're like, you know what, we've done literally everything else. Let's, I guess we'll go ahead and have the druid fly up there. It's like, oh my God, please, thank God. But even that was a 10-minute conversation. It was like, can you transform into a bird? I can't carry a rope as a bird. What about a giant bird? I can't fit up the shaft as a giant bird. What can you do? Well, I can sprout wings because I'm a dragonborn. And everyone's like, Jesus Christ, why did you not tell us that earlier?
Could have shapeshifted into a spider. Like,
I mean, yeah, there's a number of things that could have happened, Jay. Yeah. A number of things, but none of them did. Half my game was taken up with trying to traverse a 60-foot shaft.
Yep.
That'll teach you not to include 60-foot shafts in a game.
Will it?
And so, like, part of me was like, okay, I'm live on stream. Should I just stop giving them the data, or should I let this keep going? And I was like, you know what? I'm going to let this keep going. This is just too much fun for me.
You have to. Yeah, let it keep going. Absolutely.
It was beautiful. I was really proud of them too for like falling into that like mindset of, okay, well, this is how we're going to address this trap. This is how we're going to get through this. And a little bit later too, there's a door and there's a big, huge pit of spikes. They easily jumped over it. Misty stepped over it. Just athletics over it. Whatever.
Sure. Yeah.
And then they turn the corner and there's a line. There's a hallway of just lightning. Okay.
Right.
And you can go down either hallway. It gets you to the same location. All right. But then they spent like 30 minutes deactivating the lightning hallway so they could see what that door led to. And when they finally found out that door led to just the hallway again, I was just like, all right, this is insane. But I loved them for it. It was amazing. And I wouldn't trade for the world.
Good times.
Yeah.
All right.
Anything else? If not,
nope. We're good.
All right. We're out. Bye, Craig.
Bye, Craig.
Now y'all.